I don't see this. I don't know if that's.
I think we're okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right, welcome to the Park and Recreation Commission regular meeting of October 16th, 2025. The time is 6:01 p.m. Becky, can you please call roll?
Yes, I can. All right, Chair Sandoval.
Here.
Commissioner Cabrales.
Here.
Commissioner Emerson. And she's absent. Commissioner Gutierrez will also be absent this evening. And Commissioner Pasternak.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next is item 1, approving the regular meeting minutes of June 25th, 2025. Any questions or comments from commissioners? No? And then I'd request a motion and a second to approve the regular meeting minutes.
I'll motion to approve.
I second.
All right. Chair Sandoval,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabrales,
Yes.
and Commissioner Pasternak.
Yes.
All right, motion approved. Thank you.
Thanks. The public is welcome to address the commission at this time on matters not listed on the agenda that are within its jurisdiction. Comments may be no longer than 2 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to share public comments?
Yes. Commissioners, my name is Sharna Deemer. I'm the president of the Montecito Area Residents Association. As I believe you know, the Montecito area is one of the few neighborhoods in Santa Fe that does not have a park. And that problem is addressed in your parks master plan. You all know that. So I come with good news. The neighborhood association has identified some land that could be used for a small park in the Montecito area. Small being better than nothing. The property under discussion is an unused corner area of Embarcadero Way and Mission Avenue by San Rafael High School. The area targeted is sloped, is triangular in shape, and generally sits below the height of the roadway. The space is owned by the San Rafael City School District. So Mara has discussed the use of this property as city park with Bob Marcucci, Deputy Superintendent of the San Rafael City School District. He said that the district's open to the idea of using this area as a park, but would need to see a proposal design before making a commitment. Fair enough. We've had a joint meeting with Catherine Kufa, San Rafael's Library and Recreation Director, and with April Miller, the city's Department of Public Works. They both expressed interest in the project, saying the first step would have to be a feasibility study. Again, fair enough. We've talked with Mary Beth Bushy, our neighborhood city council representative, and she was very supportive of the idea. And we've had meetings with the neighbors who had been most affected by the park, who live like right around there, that corner, and they're virtually all in favor of it. And people with children, of course, are really excited by the process. So we come to this commission with the intent of informing you of the discussions underway and to ask you to any support you could give us in getting funding for the initial feasibility study, because nothing could happen until we figure it out. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Any additional public comments?
We have had, this is Mary Maurer. I'm also with Mara. I have done some preliminary drawings of what a park could look like in that area. That has been delivered to Public Works and to Catherine. Again, as Sharna indicated, we have worked not only on the feasibility of the park, but also the roadways. So for instance, Embarcadero Way and the traffic on Embarcadero Way and the city's decision with regard to whether that will remain two-way, one-way, or closed.
Thank you. I'd like to invite staff to provide any responses if they desire at this time.
Yeah, so this is not an item on the agenda right now, so I don't think we can get into a lot of conversation, but I can acknowledge that there have been some meetings. I think that there's some openness to exploring the feasibility of the idea, both on the part of the school and the city. I think as you hinted at, funding, right, feasibility, there's some things that would have to be done, but I think that there's definitely a conversation to be had there. And so, yeah, I'll be sharing that you were here and definitely appreciate that you took the time to share your interest in it. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I would just add that I support this endeavor as chair of the commission and looking forward to seeing what we can do to provide your neighborhood with a park.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners?
That's amazing.
Sounds great. If we can get a new park, I would support that as well.
Thank you. I guess we have one more person here if you want to provide public
Do
comment.
you want to chime in there, Brad?
No pressure.
I'm a member of Mara. I fully hope that the commission will be open to the idea and fully supportive of it. It's been a long time coming. We've been looking for places for a long time. So apart from buying a $2 million house and pulling it down, there doesn't seem much other choices. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Protocols, we now exit as you guys go on with your
You're
agenda.
welcome to
You're
stay
welcome
and,
to stay.
yeah,
Stay for the whole
you
thing.
can stay for the whole thing or you can
Also
feel free
welcome to
to
go.
Yeah.
Let's stay.
Okay. Because you're going to talk about Albert Park and the baseball field and everything too, aren't you? Isn't that on the
Yes.
agenda? Love to hear that.
All right, so we'll move on now to item 2, special presentations. We don't have any special presentations this month, so we'll move to our regular agenda. 1A, Pickleweed Preschool Facility Improvements.
So it's great to see you here. Thanks to all of you for being here this evening. You all know me, but for the crowd here, my name is Craig Berryman. I'm one of the city's assistant library and recreation directors, and happy to introduce my colleague here in DPW, Andrew. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and can talk a bit about the project as well. But we're here to share an update on the design of the Pickleweed preschool located down at Pickleweed Park next to the Albora Community Center. So a little presentation I'm going to share with a few slides and updates. And as I'm getting that loaded, I don't know, Andrew, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Powell. I'm a junior engineer and project manager for the Department of Public Works. I'm the project manager for the Pickleweed Preschool project. So yeah, we are currently in the design phase of the project. As Craig will soon let you all know the progress and where we currently are with our project.
Okay, and then I know that Joanna Kwok, who's our Deputy Public Works Director, is also on the Zoom call listening in, available if there's any questions as well. So can everybody see that okay? I know it's a little smaller than I like. I'd like to get a little bigger, but if you have any difficulty reading, we can always zoom in. So yeah, so the Pickleweed Preschool project. Pickleweed Preschool, it's a really, I think, a cool part of our childcare program. We have several childcare facilities throughout the city. This facility is specifically designed to serve preschoolers and serves around 68 families on any given day. We have 2 classrooms as well as a building that has a multi-purpose room, some admin office space, and some kitchen space. Each classroom serves an AM and a PM cohort. In the morning, we have about 17 kids in each classroom. So about 34 in the morning, and then 17 kids in each classroom in the afternoon. That's how we get to that 68 number. This is it's unique in comparison to our other childcare programs because this site receives funding through the state of California preschool program grant. That program, we're actually going to City Council on Monday night for a continued funding application from the state. They just increased the grant award that they offer. It covers around 82% of our operating expenses. So we also receive funding from CDBG. We've received funding from First Five Marin in the past. We received funding from the Marin Child Care Council. They supplement some of our funding. And so this is a 100% free program for the families that participate. and it is based on income eligibility. So all of the families are participating based on financial need. There's a whole process for intake and determining eligibility on the front end. So kind of a cool program, really well needed in the neighborhood down there. This slide actually just says a lot of the things I just said to you verbally. So now you can look at it on the screen too. But the reason we're here talking about this is because the facility is aging. It's approaching end of life. About a year and a half ago, one of the buildings suffered some water damage. And when our Public Works team got into the building and took a look, they realized it was beyond repair. We actually recommended we demo the building, which we did. We replaced it with a smaller temporary portable structure just to give some admin space. And we then took on an effort to do a facility assessment and really better understand what's the condition of the other existing buildings. That resulted in us determining that they're at the end of life and they should be replaced before we wind up with another situation where we've got to demo another building. So since then, we've been engaged with a consultant firm that's helping us with design. We established a budget. And Andrew, Gabby Farias, our senior childcare supervisor, and myself have been working with the design team to create a design that we hope will meet the needs moving forward. So just as an overview, like I mentioned, Pickleweed Preschool, it's located next to the community center. This aerial image actually shows the new fields out there as well that were just completed. Long-standing program. We've been operating the preschool for many decades at this point. We did establish a $1.3 million budget available for this project. The plan is to provide new portable classroom buildings. So this, with that budget, we would not have the ability to build permanent facilities, but this would hopefully provide much nicer portable units than exist. We would be adding new restrooms to each of the classrooms. This facility really does serve preschool age participants exclusively. And so, since that building was installed years ago, there have been some changes in best practices and how to work with kids. And they do not have restrooms in the classrooms right now. So for diapering, for some of the things that come up, working with young kids, those new restrooms would be a really important addition. This proposal would also improve some of the outdoor play and learning areas. So there'd be a new playground, sandbox, raised garden beds, new landscaping, and those are also really important improvements down there right now. So it would improve the accessible pathways. There'd be some improvements to the parking area, improved perimeter fencing, so improved site security and parent check-in areas, as well as new shade structures and some enhancements to other areas of the facility. Some utility and infrastructure upgrades that come when we go in and do a replacement of a building like this. Inherently, you're going to wind up with some need to upgrade utilities as well. So this is an image, kind of a conceptual image of an aerial view of what the improvements would look like. If you're familiar with the preschool, this layout actually aligns with the current layout of the existing buildings. We right now have 3 portable buildings on that site, and this would retain that existing footprint. This proposal wouldn't expand the square footage of the preschool. It would be matching the existing square footage. And the reason for that is there are some state codes for licensing that we need to adhere to make sure we're able to serve the number of children that we're serving. We also want to make sure that we're not reducing the outdoor footprint. That play area is also really important. So given the small area we have to work with, we felt it was best to just match the existing square footage, and that's the plan. So this will not allow us to serve more kids necessarily. That said, I think a question that came up at our Pickleweed Advisory Committee meeting was, well, could you serve more kids? Maybe down the line in the future. That is really more a function of the contract we have with the state and staffing and some other potential limiting factors. So we may be able to expand a little bit in the future, but that's not part of the plan and not part of the goal with this project. So this gives a slightly different view, hard to see on the screen right here, but there are 2 classrooms. This would replace the existing buildings with new classrooms with the restroom facilities. We would also be adding a administrative building that has a multi-purpose room that could be used for all sorts of purposes, a kitchen, an office space, and an area for parent meetings and check-ins. A profile view that shows maybe what the entrance might look like. We're still continuing to refine what that front gate will look like. And so this is not necessarily indicative of what that entrance is going to be, but we're continuing to refine that plan. One of the things we've heard from the parents and our staff down there is they would like to have a slightly more secure entrance. And I agree. I think that's something that could really benefit. Right now, it's kind of just one of those wooden swing gates. And so I think this will be a big improvement. This gives you an idea of what one of the classrooms might look like. There are some existing restrooms that would remain. Those are still in pretty good shape, kind of in between the 2 classrooms. And you can see in this 3D image, the lower kind of right or kind of the bottom portion of the image reflects those restrooms. There's an outside covered walkway that then connects the 2 classrooms together. Some ramps that would lead up to the main entrances to the classroom. And then right now, this plan just reflects a lot of open space. We would be coming in and adding new furnishings, fixtures, equipment, storage for all the supplies, equipment, the stuff that you need to run a child care program. So that's not shown here, but that definitely is going to be part of the plan. Another image here, kind of an aerial view of this is the what we're calling the admin building or the multi-purpose classroom. Some open multi-purpose space. It's titled break room here, but that would include a sink, a washer dryer, a place to prepare some food. That is a big part of the program down at Pickleweed. We do provide snack on a daily basis. And I think the staff down there want to provide healthy, nutritious foods. So having a place to do that is really important. That's something that they don't have right now because we lost that one building. So I think this would really be beneficial for them, as well as some office space. So the timeline for the project, as I mentioned, we've been in design development through the summer. This fall, we did bring this proposal to the Pickleweed Advisory Committee on October 1st. That was a really well-attended meeting. I would say, Andre, you were there as the rep for the Park and Rec Commission. How many people do you think were in the audience for that one?
Maybe 40 people. It was
Yeah.
pretty packed.
Pretty well attended, and I would say the vast majority of them were parents of children that attend the preschool, and so really glad that we were able to get feedback from them and really positive feedback we heard from them that this is a plan that hopefully is going to meet their kids' needs moving forward. So our goal is to wrap up design by this winter, develop a final design, hopefully go out to bid for construction. We know there's a lead time to fabricate the classrooms. So ideally, we'd like to get into contract with the company that fabricates the classrooms to give them ample time to get them designed, get them built, get them prepped. The thinking here is that we'd like to get into construction in summer 2025. We don't want to disrupt the preschool program. They do not operate in the summer. They take a natural break. So as soon as the school year ends, we'd like to get in, start construction, ideally like to wrap that up before school begins again in mid-August. That said, we know that, a project like this, there could be complications, issues, concerns. So we're developing contingency plans to potentially use the community center next door to run some of our preschool program if needed. We don't want to have to do that, but if needed, we know that that's an option for us. So that's the timeline. And, I think this was all pictures of buildings and schematics. I think, keeping in mind, like the reason we do all this is really to serve the kids in our community. And I just want to shout out to our staff down there. They do an incredible job. Karina Vasquez is the center supervisor. The staff that are down there every day do a really incredible job. Not only with the kids, but with the families. There's a lot of wraparound services that stem from the preschool. A lot of partnership with the school district, with the state, and I'm really proud that we're able to offer this program and really hope that this new facility is going to continue to meet the needs for generations moving forward. Andrew, if I miss anything, is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think you hit on the highlights of the project, and yeah, this is a great opportunity and a great project for the community itself. So really looking forward to getting our design finalized and construction underway.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like where we're at with design at this point?
Yeah, with our design, we have our rough plans in. We're finalizing our foundation plans as this site is located in the Canal neighborhood, right by Pigweed Park. It is on a floodplain, so we have to adhere to those state requirements, and we're ensuring that the buildings that we do put in and the foundations that we put in are flood-proofed per those requirements. And like Craig had mentioned, we are working with a modular company who supplies the portable buildings themselves. And so we've revised our proposal with them and ensuring that their proposal and the classroom buildings that we are going to be provided adhere to the design that we intend to install there.
A lot of work, you look at projects like this and they seem pretty straightforward, but when you get into the details, there's a lot of attention that needs to be put into it. And had to revise plans a couple of times based on some of those things with floodplain and increasing foundation footings, making sure we're complying with state code, aligning with licensing requirements. And so thanks to Andrew and the team for all the work that you put into it. So I think with that, I'll turn it over to any questions from the commission. Questions?
No, we talked a lot about the contingency plans at that meeting, and I mean, I think that makes sense to move them into the community center if that's the issue. But I think then we're displacing the other programs that would be using those spaces. So I think it's a trickle down effect. Just figuring that out.
Totally. I mean, it's a balance. I think we're going to do everything we can to mitigate that so it's not an issue. But with projects like this, sometimes things pop up. So I think to your point about like, well, what would the impact be? We'd be looking at morning programming primarily. I think the program at Pigweed Preschool ends at about 2:30 every day, and when we look at the kind of the routine uses of the community center Monday through Friday during the mornings, it's not as intense as we see in the afternoons and evenings. So there definitely would be some decisions we would have to make about how do we prioritize space, what space is allocated to the preschool versus other programs. But I'm pretty confident we could find some solutions that wouldn't be a huge impact to the community. So, and hopefully it would be a short period of time too.
So I'm curious if the city or if the community has a permanent structure. Is that like an aspiration in the future, or has that been considered and rejected as an option, or is that something aspirational?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Yes, I think there's definitely been consideration for that. We've looked at whether we could construct a permanent facility there. The key difference here is going to be cost. I think when we've really looked at outside funding sources, we've applied for multiple grants to support construction of a new facility. And well, I mentioned this is an incredible program. I think we're in a pretty competitive area to potentially obtain grant funding. We haven't been successful. We've I think attempted 3 or 4 times to get the funding that we felt would be applicable for this type of a project. So, given that, I think we continue to see deterioration of the facility and knew we needed to act, right? We have to do something here. So, the DPW has a whole list of projects on the capital improvement list. We were able to find funding, and we decided that we need to do this now and take action. I have, every time I talk with any potential funding sources, I'm like, hey, got any money? Do you have a couple $1 million laying around that you could support this project with? And I'd love to continue to advocate for a permanent facility. I think that this is a program that continues to be a goal that is important for the city. I think that we're going to continue to see that show up in our strategic plan to provide early childhood education in the Canal community. We're actively partnering with a lot of other nonprofits and orgs in a program called LCAN, Early Learning in the Canal neighborhood. And they're continuing to strategize, well, how do we even expand early childhood education in the Canal neighborhood? It's been identified as a core need. So I would love to build a permanent facility that could potentially expand how many kids we can serve.
Right.
Keeping in mind though, too, I mean, there's a lot of limitations on the site, right? We could go up, we've got floodplain, all those things come with really added significant cost. And so it may not be feasible to, to build a permanent structure that would truly accomplish that goal on this site. So, yeah.
And then a follow-up to that is like what's the longevity of these portable buildings? Like, are we expecting this to serve our community for the next, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that also came up at the Pickleweed Advisory Committee meeting. I asked our consultant who was there at that meeting, kind of turned around, I was like, hey, can you answer that one? And if I recall, I think he said that the expected lifespan is typically between 25 and 30 years for these buildings. So I think when we look at the level of investment that we're making here, I hope that we can squeeze out even more years than that. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we are continuing to look for those funding opportunities to do something permanent. I would hope we would get a really good lifespan out of these buildings though. And with new builds like this, I think we're also trying to be really intentional about, like Andrew said, the foundation, the footings, the things that we've run into issues with before, with maybe water damage that we can address now during design, that are going to help really make them easy to maintain, lower those expenses, and give them a nice long lifespan. So, but with anything, buildings do age, and I want to be honest and transparent. These are, portable buildings, modular buildings that are not intended to be a forever solution. So I think we need to build that into our plan for how we replace them down the line as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional comments?
No,
or
that was,
questions?
you got mine.
Then the recommended action is to receive the report. Do you need to vote?
Yeah, so there's no need to vote on this. I think we want to make sure that if you had any feedback about the plan, we can incorporate it, but no needs to approve. I think if you had any comments, we can incorporate them, but we're going to continue to be refining the design. And ultimately, when we have a final design, we will likely need to take that construction contract to City Council. So that would be the next place that you'd see this showing up.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, I will actually open, I should open in-person public comment at this time, if there is any.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes?
I'm just curious, these are the kind of modules that are brought in on a truck, and will the old ones be taken away on a truck, or will they be destroyed?
Probably, I'll answer the second part of your question first. What's going to happen to the old buildings? We've had a couple other childcare centers at we have centers that are located on school district campuses. And about 2 years ago, we had to remove one of those, and we tried to strip as many of the useful parts as we could. So our public works team went in and they're like, that door, we can still use that, So I think like supplies, equipment, things in there, we'll do the best we can to salvage, but most of those buildings, typically you have to destroy them. We even looked at whether we could get another agency to take it. Sometimes other agencies want to use them for other purposes, but there's a lot of interesting conversations you get into with like, okay, is this HVAC equipment useful? Do you have to decharge, and then recharge those systems? And it's just not usually worth it. So likely those will be demoed. And then the portable buildings, the modulars, yeah, I think they will likely be the ones that they'll be able to truck in. And once the foundation's built, they'll be able to lift those in place and secure them. So they will be constructed off-site.
Come on, watch them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm closing public comment at this time, and I think we'll move on to agenda item 1B, the Parks Maintenance and Projects Biannual Status Report.
Cool. Andrew, I'm going to turn it right over to you to get that started. And
Yeah, so I can run through this. Craig, if you wanted to just show it on the screen, just scroll through it, or
just a second. I'm just going to pull the report up on the screen. And this is the same report that was in the packet, the agenda packet that you received. We're going to just pull it up so that we can follow along.
I'll get started. I'll go through our completed projects first, and then into our active projects. So with our completed projects, we have first Boyd Memorial Park playground equipment replacement. This project, we had existing playground equipment that was removed due to wear and aging. Staff worked to provide an interim equipment solution until permanent improvements are made relating to the Parks and Rec Master Plan. So with this project, construction began in August of 2025 to add a new 2 to 5 year old play structure, swing set and other play features, as well as new engineered wood fill and an ADA compliant ramp into the play area. The playground was reopened back to the community at the end of September.
I'm excited about that one. Took a little longer than we wanted. And this is another example where it's like, oh, once you start to get into design, we realized, we want to make sure we get it right, even though it was intended to be, this equipment is intended to be temporary. This was not part of our initial master plan kind of near-term project list. But I think we wound up with a really great result that has some improvements to the pathway. There's a new ramp that was installed, new wood chips throughout, and I really like the size of the play equipment, particularly for younger kids. So I think it's going to be a really great project that should last for several years. So
Our second completed project this year, Peacock Gap Park playground renovation. So this playground was actually part of the Parks and Rec Master Plan. This project replaced the playground structures and improved the surrounding features and accessibility into the play area. Construction began earlier this year in April and lasted for approximately 6 months up until about September. And we held a ribbon cutting celebration in conjunction with our annual Movies in the Park for Peacock Gap on September 12th. So that was a great celebration. Saw the pictures from that, so it was great.
and if you haven't had a chance to go out there and check it out, I think it looks great. So I encourage you to go take a look.
Moving into our active projects, one of the larger ones, Pigweed Park Enhancement Project. So this project is funded through a 50-50 matching grant from the Land and Wildlife Conservation Fund for $8.48 million. This project reached substantial completion back in the end of August. It's highlighted by the completion of the new all-weather turf fields, the fitness equipment, basketball court, and other park improvements. The city, similar to Peacock Gap, held a ribbon cutting celebration last Friday, October 10th, in conjunction with the Movies in the Park event. There are a few outstanding items for the project, including the toddler playground area, which is anticipated to be completed in the next coming months. And staff are still working on upgrading the new park restroom to state flood proofing requirements. So this item will be completed early 2026. We will need to go back out to bid for construction for this work, but our design is being finalized currently, and the bid package is being put together.
Yeah, I think same. If you haven't had a chance to go visit the park, it looks great. The fields are open. They're being heavily used. We opened the fields on September 15th. Basketball courts open. 18 new parking spaces are open. I think the community is really excited about that. And so, yeah, still some work to be done, but by and large, I think the majority of the park is open to the community and being enjoyed, and that was the goal. So this was a big project. And I just want to underscore that, that this has been more than 15 years in the making. And so we're really thankful for that grant funding that allowed us to do this and for the city's contribution to make it happen. So really important one for the community, and really thankful that we're at a point where it's open.
Next project will be the Los Ranchitos Park restroom sewer line repair.
Just real quick, another image of the park. You can see that's the field kind of looking out there, some of the landscaping, some of the pathway improvements. So, sorry.
It's a great looking park. Yeah, like I said, Los Ranchitos Park restroom sewer line repair. So this project aims to address some maintenance concerns with the park restroom sewer line to ensure the continued safe use of the facilities. So staff are currently investigating sewer pipe replacements and collecting quotes from qualified contractors to perform the work. Now move into our maintenance update. So for where we are here, Beach Street Community Center Playground maintenance. Public Works Parks team addressed holes in a large tree well within the playground area. So they added additional decomposed granite and solidified and recompacted the material just to avoid any further holes from expanding. Next will be our bench and picnic table sponsorship program. So the city has a policy that allows community members to make donations for pre-approved park benches and tables placed in city parks with the goal of replacing aging infrastructure. This program is made possible through collaboration between both our Department of Public Works Park Division and Library and Recreation.
Just highlight that program too. So this is relatively new. You know, the city has for years has worked with donors on commemorative benches, memorial benches, but we formalized a policy approach a couple of years ago. And since we've done that, I think that's been really helpful to let the community know this is an option. How much does it cost to make a donation, to get a bench installed? What's that process look like? And we've been able to install benches at Peacock Gap Park, at Starkweather Park, I'm trying to think, Loch Lomond, I think there was a bench installed recently, Oleander Park, and I think Santa Margarita Park is on the list as another one that another bench is going to go in. So we're really thankful for those donations. That really helps us. The goal of this program was to replace these aging amenities that we didn't have a direct budget to replace, and that program is working right now. So I definitely want to spread the word. If you know of anyone who does want to commemorate a loved one or an event, this is a good opportunity and way to do it.
Next, we have our basketball hoop replacement. So this was to address some noise concerns. So the basketball hoops at Ranchitos Park were replaced this past summer by our Parks Division maintenance staff.
When you're at the park, you do that clang when the basketball hits. Yeah, apparently it was really loud there. So, yeah, those little things about recreation programs and park maintenance that sometimes you don't really think about. Yep, I replace those periodically.
Let's see. Our regular maintenance note, this is just that the Parks Division maintenance staff, they do transition to assist our Streets Division staff during the winter just to prepare for the storms to meet the Marin County Stormwater Pollution Protection Program requirements. And then my final note will just be the flyers that are scattered around. There will be some upcoming bike and ped plan events in the future. Thank you.
And I know we have Joanna on the line too. I'm not sure, Joanna, if you had anything that you wanted to add on your end.
Hi, thanks, Greg. Great job, Andrew. I think just really quick to add on to Andrew's last point, we've got some bike and ped plan outreach events coming out. We would really love if everyone could kind of help spread the word. It's a critical component as the bike and ped plan is going to help close any gaps in like connectivity to all of the destinations, which would include parks and rec centers. And all the things that make Santa Fe great. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing too. I think this report it's biannual and it really focuses on the bigger projects. And so there's a lot of day-to-day things that don't show up in a report like this that I know our parks maintenance team and our facilities crew do just to keep our baseline programs running. And so I want to just acknowledge that work too. It's equally important to maintain what we have. So we're so excited about all these improvements and enhancements, but I want to definitely just shout out to the crews that are out there every day in the rain, doing what they do, taking care of the parks, cleaning up the trash at the parks, after those picnic rentals. And so thanks to them.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? No.
I actually was more interested in the benches. So are they only replacing existing benches or are there new benches, opportunities for new benches?
Yeah, great question. The thinking here is that we want to replace existing benches. We don't want to necessarily add inventory because we do struggle sometimes to maintain what we have. And if we're constantly just adding new, we're concerned that that's just going to lead to more than we need and a lack of ability to maintain what we have. So the way the program is designed is that we'd be replacing benches that are at the end of their life. We took a look at all of our parks, tried to identify where those benches are, and we're working with potential donors to identify spots that meet their needs. You know, because everyone has kind of a special space or place. They're having a couple examples where someone has that really special place in the park. We've talked with the parks maintenance crew and they said, yeah, we could install a bench there. So what if we take that one out over there that's at the end of life and instead we put a new one here that's a suitable location? And that's fine. Yeah, I think we've got some flexibility in that regard. But I think we'd like to stick to that overarching philosophy if we can.
Thank you.
One comment is I think you guys should show like the before and after for a lot of these projects so that people really see the impact that you guys are doing in the community. Just a thought, because I know it from being at Peacock Gap Playground, for example, but yeah, I think this is kind of, we've been on this commission for 5 years, almost more.
Yeah.
And this feels like a banner year in terms of productivity from the department. And I just think you guys should, you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too, because a lot of these places,
Yeah,
a
like-
lot of these places, we walked around with you on when we had the
tour.
walking meeting, and to see like that it's really come all the way full circle to something that is usable and nice it's really satisfying. So thank you.
Yeah, point taken. I think, you know, I'll acknowledge that too. I think I'm excited. We have a new marketing coordinator that joined us. We've been talking a lot about, well, how can we make sure we share the story? Because I don't want to do it necessarily to, you know, pat ourselves on the back. I do that jokingly, but really just to celebrate what the community's been able to do, right?
Yeah.
This has been a huge community effort. Everybody's been involved in it all around. And so I agree with you. I think we're working on ways to make sure that we really share these wins for the community and make sure people know that, you know, we can keep doing more. I think with additional support moving forward, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to tackle more big projects, and we've got some big ones coming up. You know, we're it's the library renovation at Pickleweed Park is happening soon. That Pickleweed preschool is happening soon. The Measure P project that will really look at this site where we're at and build a brand new community center and library. A great opportunity to really thoughtful about how that could really enhance this whole park in this area of the community. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to keep working on those projects moving forward.
And just a quick question on like maintenance at parks. Would you direct like the public to, if they see something they want to, you know, see, click, fix? I don't know if there's can you do that for park vegetation maintenance as well, or is it just for streets? And
yeah, that's a really great tool all around. I think if there's something happening in the city that a community member thinks needs to be addressed, an issue, a concern, that's a really great initial point of contact. And just to say it out loud, so C-Click Fix, you already said it, but it's an online tool you can use to report issues and concerns. And definitely for like parks maintenance issues, vegetation, broken bench, something that's not right with a playground, that's a really great first point of intake for us. So, yeah.
Actually, I had a question follow up to that because I've been thinking about C-Click Fix a lot and maintenance. Do cities, or does the city of San Rafael rely on that as a way to like know that something's in the pipeline? Because it seems like things maybe languish until a community member reaches out about something. And I'm just curious if like that tool has become like the first line of defense rather than city maintenance, like regularly checking up on certain areas.
I mean, there's probably a lot of ways you can answer that. I think to some degree, yeah, we do rely on the community to help notify us if things are amiss, right? I think it's really helpful if we get that in. It is a way for us to track it, to really understand where those issues are and be able to respond to them. But I think the flip side of that is I know our team, we do the best we can to be proactive, right? To identify those issues early, try to address them. You just can't catch everything. So I think it's probably both and, right? I think that it's a really helpful metric tool for us too. I think we can go back in and run reports and say, you know, we've got this recurring issue that's happening. And so I know sometimes when we get those recurring, you know, issues that come into C-Click Fix, I'm like, oh, that thing again. But it's helpful, right? Like we want people to report, we want to see those issues because we can go back annually, periodically and say, well, that's something that's coming up a lot. Let's see if we can find a solution to address it. So I think internally there's other tools that we use to try to develop strategy and plans for the future. And like I would use like our playground replacement as an example. I think we saw in our Park and Rec master plan that we have a lot of playgrounds that are aging, and we've got to have a strategy to make sure that we don't wind up 10 years from now having a whole bunch of playgrounds that need to be replaced all at once. Let's come up with a plan. And so I think we're working to implement some technology that's going to help us with that. So asset management tools that we can use that will flag it early, so we can say, all right, this is coming up. We need to plan for it, budget it, and make sure that it's something we address. So I know Public Works is really involved in some of those efforts right now. So
Thank you. Thanks. I'd like to open in-person public comment at this time.
Two
Yeah.
quick questions. One is on the Pickleweed Park with the refurbishment of the fields. Was there community discussion with regard to the noise that is created by them being very busy, as you've identified?
yeah,
And second is, are there set hours for the fields?
yeah, good questions. We did a lot of community outreach and engagement before this project. I started with the city around 2022, so I wasn't as involved in the outreach that happened. Most of it happened, I think, 2017 through around 2021. There were a couple different efforts to get grant funding to support that project, and through every one of those efforts, we went out and asked the community, like, what do you really want to see here? Like, what are the improvements that are important for the community? And how do we make sure that we capture those? I think overwhelmingly, the field improvements were the biggest component of the project that we heard people wanted to see happen. Pickleweed Park definitely is busy. It's a very busy park. It gets a lot of uses. I think historically.
But is there concern about the noise that's created by it being very busy?
No.
Was there engagement with the community about?
Yeah, there was
busyness?
engagement about that. I think that, it's something that was a known condition that we're going to continue to have a heavily utilized park. I mean, we talked a lot about it in community outreach. We talked a lot about it in design. We didn't identify that the improvements were going to increase or change, the noise levels from what they were previously. And I don't think we've seen that play out. We have not received any, additional noise complaints or new noise complaints based on the improvements that have come in. I think it's something we can continue to monitor and track moving forward. So, and then the second part of your question, remind me.
Hours for the field.
Hours for the field. The field's open from sunrise to sunset when the park is open. We talked a lot about there is a fence around the perimeter and some gates to get in. We talked about, well, should we lock them or should we leave them open? And we're leaving them open. The field is open to the community while the park is open. We do have a reservation system in place, so user groups can rent the field if they want to. And we've got some times of the year that we allocate field space. So in early September, we did an allocation for the period of like September through February. And then in November, we're going to allocate for the period of February through probably November. We're trying to figure out what really aligns with the program season, and it's going to give people enough time to plan, but also not looking so far out that it's difficult to plan. And we're trying to balance public, just free open access with those user groups that are organized sports teams, and they really need to know that they have access to the field. So, but yeah, open sunrise to sunset. It's true for the basketball court as well, and for the rest of the park amenities.
I have a question. All-weather turf, is that biological or artificial?
So yeah, it's artificial. It is going to be like, if you've seen, there's a lot of examples of that for sports fields out there. We had a lot of conversation about that too. That was definitely something that came up in community engagement. And the reason why we chose that is because historically that field, we've had a ton of maintenance issues with it. It does get a lot of use. It gets so much wear and tear that we've had to shut it down for almost 6 months out of the year, which means that really limits how the community is able to access it. So this is an improvement that should allow that field to be playable year round. There were some intentional choices we made too, like we used cork infill instead of the rubber infill. So there's organic material that was incorporated and tried to do everything we could to be environmentally conscious. Talked a lot with the Bay Coastal Development Commission, BCDC, because this does fall partially within their jurisdiction too. And, they said, hey, is this a line? And really had a lot of eyes on this project from the environmental perspective. And so I feel like we did a lot of due diligence on that and feel good about the decisions and why we decided to land on that. And that's not the right, it's not going to be the right field material everywhere, right? I think that there's some very specific reasons we chose it. But yeah, like that might not be something we want to do at all of our fields. So.
Thank you.
So you said the pickleweed project took 15 years? Can you help me understand why it took 15 years?
Yeah, I think if you, and again, I haven't been with the city all those 15 years. So I think when I look back at the records of when we heard from the community that they wanted to see some improvements to the field, probably about 15 years, maybe more. The community center down there, the Alboro Community Center, was renovated from 2004 to 2006. And I think right after that renovation happened, the community said, hey, we would also love to see some improvements to the park. And so, I mean, that's 19 years ago at this point. God, 19 years ago, 2006? That was like a year or two ago, right? And I think it's been an ongoing effort to find funding, similar to the preschool. It's a big project. There's a big price tag associated with it. And so we had to find a funding source. We applied for multiple grants for those park improvements. A couple of them, we got pretty far along, but didn't actually receive the funding. And thanks to, I think, our public works team, as well as Catherine Kufa, who's our director, she's the one who wrote the LWCF grant and we were so fortunate to receive that funding. That's really what allowed us to finally do the project and take it on. So yeah, I would say if you had to pinpoint one specific reason why it didn't happen, lack of funding. There's just a lot of other priorities in the city, and it never received funding and prioritization.
So the kids who wanted to play on the field are in university and grandparents by now, practically.
Yeah, there's no better time to plant a tree or build a park than now, right? And I'm glad we're able to get the job done.
I do have a question about the benches and how do we find out how to do that and how much it costs and what the opportunities are?
Yeah, you can, there is a website, a webpage specifically for our commemorative bench program. It's on the City of Sanderville website. You can also reach out directly to me. I'm actually one of the key point people that helps with that, or our public works team, our parks maintenance team. But I think if you send me an email, I'm happy to share my contact information. My information is listed in the packet for the agenda tonight, as well as on the website. And if you go to that website, there is an intake form that you can complete. So if you're interested in that program and more information, our process is just to better understand what you'd like to do, where you'd like to install a bench. And then we usually do a site visit where we go to the park with our parks maintenance team, identify whether there's a spot that's feasible, and then talk about next steps from there, including donation cost and timeline and what would be written on the plaque, make sure we get that right, all of those details.
I have one little follow-up question that you're talking about replacing benches. Are these benches that have already been dedicated and paid for by somebody? Are these just basic benches?
Yeah, just the basic benches. We have had a couple where I'm like, okay, that was already a bench with a plaque on it. So we're probably not going to touch that one. So, yeah, I do think, that said, there are some benches with plaques on them that are also in rough shape. And so I think we're looking.
Keep the plaque and move the plaque on to the next one.
And there is a scholarship option. So if there's someone that doesn't have the financial means to make a donation, because they are, it's a sizable donation to cover the cost of the benches. We set it up to cover the cost of the equipment as well as maintenance and upkeep for a period of about 15 years. And so I think to give you a rough idea, it's like between $2,500 and $3,500 for a bench. But that's designed to last for about 15 years. So if someone can't afford that based on financial need, we are working with them to install just a plaque on an existing bench that's in good shape. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no more in-person public comment, I'd close public comment at this time. And I'd like to move now to agenda item 3C, the San Rafael Pacific's baseball team program report.
Okay. Andrew, you're welcome to stay, but if you wanted to get out of here.
I will slip out.
All right, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I am going to do the same thing here. I am going to pull up the staff report that we wrote, just as a frame of reference. Thank you. Okay, so the Pacifics. I was curious, have any of you ever been to a San Rafael Pacific's game? Yeah, I see your hand raised. All right. They had a pretty good year this year. They made it pretty far. It's a really fun experience. The Pacifics have been, they're an independent baseball team. They've been here in San Rafael since 2012. And they've, the team itself has operated under a couple different leagues and different sets of owners since that time. Right now, they are a part of the Pecos League. And we last year, or actually this year, we entered into a new agreement with the Pacifics. We've kind of varied the way that we've worked with the Pacifics over the years. When they first started in 2012, they were bringing in a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Some of the games would have hundreds of spectators. We did have a separate agreement with them at that point in time. I think after a few years, attendance started to dwindle a little bit. Ownership changed. We wound up revamping the way we worked with that team and wound up treating them kind of like our standard rental group. They would rent the facility using our standard application. There's a few things that aren't covered in that standard application that we wanted to kind of address and get back to a separate agreement. We feel like there's a lot of mutual benefit from that. And that's the reason we're taking that approach. So some of those things that aren't addressed in our standard application are things like concessions and ticket sales and use of the locker rooms or storage in the facilities. Most of our rental groups, like Little League, for example, or other youth sports groups, they're not using the facility in the same way the Pacifics are. And so this really helps clarify a lot of those terms and conditions. And part of that agreement when we entered into that was that we wanted to bring a report to the commission on an annual basis and give you an update. And so that's why we're here tonight, is to give a little update. I did talk with, so Andrew Dunn is the owner of the Pecos League, and he is unable to be here tonight, but he helped us compile this report and share all this information. So been in touch with him, and he owns the entire Pecos League. So really interesting guy if you ever get a chance to chat with him. So a couple of kind of key stats that I think are really kind of cool to see. They hosted the All-Star game this year. They won their Pacific Division Championship. If you take a look at the map, all the Pacific teams are part of California. And then there's teams kind of all throughout the West that play as part of the Pecos League. So made it pretty far. They took second place in the Pecos League overall, so made it to the championship game, had a really successful season. Averaged 236 fans per game in the 2025 season. There were a couple of things that were challenges this year. I think they had some issues with their concession stand, the Snack Shack. They did have to close that for a period of time, but they were able to reopen it. I think that's one of the things we're still working with the Pacifics on. But overall, I think they had a very successful season. They do a lot to engage the community, and that's something that we've tried to partner with them on. We're co-advertising with them in our activity guide, trying to make sure that we cross-promote to our social media. They had a city staff employee night where they invited employees to come. They did that with several other orgs, San Rafael Girls Softball, the Little League teams. They came to the library and did a summer reading kickoff party on June 21st and had a meet and greet with kids there. So they're trying to be as involved in the community as they can. So overall had a very successful season. Looking ahead, I think there's some things that they're excited to do. And you know what? I actually just realized this is the wrong report. I think there's some more detail I want to pull up in a separate report. I think this is a draft. Give me 1 second here.
Nice
I looked at it, I was like, that's not the right information there. So hold on just a minute. Specifics. I was just talking along, I was like, it doesn't look right. Ah, I'm in the wrong folder. This looks better. Yeah, this is the right report. My apologies. Similar, I don't think any of the stats changed, but I wanted to share a couple of other things, particularly with the fiscal impact here. So one of the key things that comes up in questions about the Pacifics is, okay, what are the fees? What are they paying? They're paying our standard rental fees. That equated to around $23,000 in fees to rent the field last year. They used the field, I think, for a total of 36 games last year. We're in the process of the month of October for us is when we do our requests for applications from user groups to use Albert Field. So that's open through October 31st. The agreement we have gives us the opportunity to continue this for the next 2 years on an annual basis, unless either party wanted to, step away from that agreement. So I think we're excited to work with the Pacifics again in 2026. Would expect pretty similar patterns of usage and a similar style of agreement moving forward. I think the key things we want to resolve are making sure that the Snack Shack is operational. They're looking to do some work to it this winter. I think we're making some refinements to some of their operations with trash and refuse pickup, security services, as well as really just trying to drive up attendance. I think that we'd love to support the Pacifics and making sure that the community really knows this is a fun way to recreate, right? To go to a baseball game, I think at this level is super fun. It's really affordable. So we want to help support them in promoting and advertising their program area and really see this as a really great community event that people can go to and have a lot of fun. So with that, I think I'll turn over for any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, any questions or comments from commissioners?
So was it just weather related with the Snack Shack? Things like the outside coming in or?
Yeah, I think it was an issue with the county coming in and saying, hey, you've got to do a couple things to Snack Shack to bring it code compliant. And so they're working with the county right now to make sure that that's happening. And we're very supportive of making sure that that's happening, right? So I think there's some things they needed to update and upgrade, and that's what they're working on.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And that's in their court and not.
That is, yeah, that concession stand building is owned by the Pacifics. It was brought in by them back in 2012. And we've agreed with them that they're allowed to place it on our premises, but they're responsible for the upkeep, the maintenance of it. So, down the road, maybe that changes. I think we've talked about whether it's in our interest to have our own facility or to do a different model where food trucks come in, but it's a part of their business, right? I mean, they are selling food, they're selling beer and stuff there. And, we want to encourage them to do that. And we're comfortable with them having that responsibility as part of their business model. But yeah, as of right now, that's their responsibility.
Yeah, thank you.
Did the fees change at all with the new restrooms and the improvements that were made?
Not in response to any of the facility upgrades, but over the last couple of years, we have looked at all of our fees for recreation and park-based programs. We have implemented a couple of fee increases over the last few years. I don't recall offhand what the field rental fee increase was. I believe it was around 5% last year from the prior year's fees. One of the things we're doing right now, I was going to share in my my update after this, but it ties in with this. We just started working with a group to do a cost recovery analysis. We're taking a look at our fees. We're taking a look at our program operations and really looking at a program level at what is our cost recovery. I think, what we're seeing is across the board and compared to a lot of other agencies with similar types of programs, we're doing pretty good. We feel like we're running pretty sustainable programs, but there's definitely some areas where we can make some adjustments and maybe develop more of a guiding philosophy of how we set fees and what should our cost recovery be for certain programs. Some programs have broad community impact. Some are going to be more specialized. Right? And I think we're really looking at, for some of those specialized programs, we should be able closer to 100% cost recovery. For some of the broad community impact programs, my personal philosophy is I'd love to see us make those free or reduced and very accessible for the community as much as we can, right, within budget constraints. And I think part of that work is now looking at how do then these program uses tie in with facility use. We just did a facility assessment at Elbert Park. We tackled that because we know with all the improvements coming here, we're going to have hopefully a brand new community center. What's happening next door with this field that is aging, and the facility might need a little bit of work. We want to understand how much work is going to be needed and what's the cost associated with that. And, I think depending on how much we wanted to tackle the cost at Elbert Field to kind of do some basic things would maybe be between $1.5 and $4.5 million on the high end, right? If we wanted to really take a comprehensive look at that whole campus. And so knowing that, I think, we have to also look too at how much does it cost to use the field? Are we, what's our cost recovery model for that program area? And what are other funding opportunities we could look at to maintain this really incredible facility? Because it's cool. It's a historic baseball stadium. It's one of the, it's unique in Marin County. It's one of the only lighted fields in the county. So it gets a lot of use for like MCAL, their championship game. I know Marin Academy is a heavy user, the Little League teams, big users. And so, I think it's a really incredible facility, but it definitely needs some love at this point. So.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up to in-person public comment, if anything.
I do have one, because you mentioned the Marin County, the closure of the snack shack. So as Andrew Dunn's report was attached to it, it's rather sweet. He says, despite having internal staffing problems, Marin County Health was very helpful in reopening the snack bar. I'd just like to put that on record because so many people look at facility, city things just getting in the way of everything. That's our private business, go ahead. So I really appreciate that living in this community, the city and the county. I do feel that there's a sense that we want to help people do things. And I really appreciate all of what you're doing and even the Marin County Health. So I just want to put that on record.
Thank you.
I have a more functional question. So for the baseball field, is it the responsibility of the Pacifics or Parks departments to maintain baseball condition?
Yeah, it's the Parks Department. We're responsible for maintaining the facility and for allocating the space and managing the facility. We do have agreements with anyone that rents the facility. We kind of lay out the rules and the guidelines. And with the Pacifics, we have partnered with them to kind of a small degree. They do some work to the field to prep the field for their games. They have particular needs, just kind of playing at a higher level and caliber. And so we have an agreement with them with insurance to allow them to use like a motorized vehicle out there to drag the field. That's really unique. That's another reason why that agreement is helpful for us to cover that liability. They do some striping. I think they do like sand and mounds at the pitcher's mound. So they'll do some of that additional work to prep. Some of our other groups do that too, I think on a limited basis, but primarily it's our parks crew that's out there maintaining the field. Yeah.
So you had mentioned there was some nights like for city employees nights and so forth and so on. So it occurred to me that you might suggest them to have neighborhood association nights
Yeah.
and go through there's a federation of San Rafael neighborhoods. And just say, come out on such a night. And so it would be, all the neighborhood associations would blast it to all their members and would be a big, I don't know. That's the thought.
It's a great idea.
Here we
I
go.
did not know that.
I actually talked with Issa about that last year.
Okay.
And she was very supportive, but got very busy with other stuff.
Yeah, and if you have any other recommendations on ways to engage the community, ways that they could partner, potentially do some of those nights, I'm happy to share that information with them. It's a great suggestion.
The Oakland Ballers did a public transit night, which was very successful, being part of the public transit industry in the East Bay. But if
Yeah.
Golden Gate and Marin Transit are here, so that could be a fun
Ride
night.
your bike to baseball night. I like it, yeah.
If there's no more in-person public comment, I would close it at this time, and we'll go next to the staff liaison report.
Okay. This isn't a 4-hour meeting, Robert. Come on,
Yeah,
we're only an hour in.
I tried.
How long should I talk for?
We're going to talk a lot tonight.
I got to talk a lot already. Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of the things that I would typically be reporting out, project updates, ribbon cuttings. I know we talked about them already, but I did want to just say again that it was great to see the community out at Peacock Gap. The ribbon cutting and movie was wonderful. And at Pickleby Park. That was just on Friday the 10th, had a really great turnout. The weather almost turned on us. We were like, wow, it was blue skies when we started, and then the clouds came in and I thought it was gonna rain. Apparently it's raining hard in Novato. And so we made an announcement before the movie that, okay, if it starts to sprinkle, we're fine. But if it starts to really rain, we're gonna have to pull the plug. Thankfully, we didn't have to, so. So yeah, it was great to see the community out at both of those events. And Boyd Park as well, just really happy to see that. We have a monthly newsletter that we've been putting out. I mentioned we have a new marketing coordinator that joined us a couple months ago. And so just wanted to call attention to that. If you're not getting that newsletter and you want to stay in the loop on things that are happening, we have one for library and one for recreation. You can sign up on our website to receive those updates. Trying to get a lot of good information into those newsletters moving forward, including events that are coming up. We have on October 18th, we have the floating pumpkin patch at Carolina Pool. On the 23rd, we have the treat walk. We're getting into the holiday theme here. That's here at the community center. And then on November 1st, out at Pickleby Park, we have the annual Day of the Dead community celebration. And so some great events coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Our November meeting for Park and Rec Commission, we have a couple of reports that are going to be coming your way. And I think we'll have a relatively full agenda. So I just wanted to flag that with all of you. If we'll probably put a reminder out to try and make sure we have quorum for that meeting. Some things that we're going to be talking about. We've got the Marin Master Gardeners presentation. We're planning to share with you our community center. We'd like to adopt some new use guidelines that reflect some of the rules and behavior guidelines for our community centers. We have something like that in the library, but we don't have anything like that for community centers. We've run into some issues and some things that are harder for us to enforce. And so we're reviewing that right now and trying to make sure that we talk about that as a community. So might be sharing some draft recommendations with you then. Our annual citywide Park and Rec master plan update. It's related to the biannual parks plan, but really more focused on the projects identified in the master plan. Where are we at? What's the status update and what's coming up in the near term? So that'll be coming. We may be talking about the Elbert Park Library and Community Center, a community stakeholder committee. So the group that would help guide the development of this site as we get into planning for the construction of that community center library here, as well as selection of chair, vice chair, and committee assignments. So lots on the agenda in November. We want to make sure you're aware of that. So, and with that, I think that's those are the key updates I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick question. Is there is it 650 Canal? Well, I just want to know if there's an update at all on that.
Yeah, it's 620 Canal. You were
620,
close.
sorry.
Yeah, so that's the address of there's a property that the city and the county and the Trust for Public Land have been negotiating a potential acquisition of. So that's the one you're talking
Yes,
about right
yes,
now.
yes.
So kind of an exciting opportunity, not quite a done deal yet. That went to city council for initial approval of release of some city funds, I think a couple months ago. Since then, the county has also authorized use of Measure A grant funds to support the purchase. My understanding is the Trust for Public Land, who is one of the kind of lead agencies that's been driving this project, has been reaching out to potential donors to try to cover the difference in funding. I'd have to look at the specifics. I don't remember exactly what the total acquisition cost is and who's committed to contributing at this point. I know there's also, I believe, Trust for Public Land had a meeting tonight with some potential donors and had some deadlines. Me and Catherine Kufa and a couple representatives from our Community and Economic Development Department met with Trust for Public Land and a rep from the property earlier this week. We toured the site. There's contingencies on a sale like this to clear it and make sure that it's going to be suitable to hand over. That site is, if you're not familiar with it, it's right on the canal. It's kind of directly across the canal from 101 Surf Sport. And in the big picture, that the thinking here is that this could be a really great opportunity for a pedestrian and bike footpath, a bridge that goes across the canal. So that's the vision, but in the near term, the property would be used also as a park. The Measure A funds that are committed would come with a deed restriction requiring that parcel to be a park. It's about 1.6 acres, and the last time I was there, it had boats everywhere. It's currently being used as a boat storage facility. Now those are all gone. They're all cleared out. There is a boat storage rack that's left. The docks that were there are gone. The boats that were there are gone. There were tenants in those boats, and they're no longer there. And so it's a pretty clean site. I think we're at a point where the city would likely be removing any of our contingencies about that property. And I think now it's kind of just up to seeing if final funding comes in. Hopefully it does. I think we're all optimistic that we're really close to that point. And once the site is acquired, we also know that there's a lot of additional work that's going to be coming, right? There's feasibility studies for the bridge. There's grant funding the city's already received that's in place to complete that feasibility study. I think, of course, we're going to be looking specifically at this parcel and whether or not it's feasible there, but that's also money that could go looking elsewhere in the city to understand if maybe there's a better, more feasible location. And then, once you have this property, I think, we'd love to have an interim plan to open it up as a park and see what can we do to make this open to the public. There is going to be some work we're going to need to put in to get to that point. So this is the years, right, that we're going to be looking at developing that parcel and hopefully be able to find some other funding that could contribute to that as well. I think in conversation with the Trust for Public Land, some city staff went down to India Basin down in San Francisco. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that site. There's some similarities, right? It's on the shoreline. It had a former use that was not a park. Now it's been turned into a park. A lot of agencies involved in rehabilitating that site. And so they did a tour down there just to get a feel like, what can you do with a project of this nature? And everyone believes this project could be very competitive for funding. But I think we're going to have to clear some hurdles and get to that point before we know. So, yeah, so I think hopefully we'll have an update maybe by November and like what's the status of the acquisition and where we go from here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I would just a comment to the members of the public. This seems like a good model potentially for you all to follow. Just monitor this project as you kind of work on bringing a park to your neighborhood. I think it's worth you guys following.
We've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? I would open this now to in-person public comment, if any.
I do have a question about Marin Community Foundation. Are they accessible to local projects?
I can't speak for them. I think that's probably a question for MCF. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely met a lot of people that work at MCF, and I think like I said, I can't speak for them, but my answer would probably be yes. I think that they want to be very accessible to the community. But I'd have to really defer to them on like, what are their funding goals and objectives and how they would, allocate any dollars towards projects like that. So I do know that they've been contacted about 620 Canal and are part of that conversation, but I can't, really speak for what commitment levels they'd be contributing at this point in time. So.
I will just offer some information because I was on the board for a number of years. They tend to give bigger grants than smaller grants.
Mhm.
So if you ask for $500,000, it's a better chance than to ask for $5,000.
Yeah.
So you might package, so we would do this park, this park, this park, and this park, rather than this park.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's just the way they think in big money. They got for example, the canal, people in the canal working with the people in Marin City to work together to get a much bigger grant because they if you asked for $10,000, it wasn't getting funded. Anyway, just the way they're working now is cooperation, collaboration, and think big.
Okay, I'll close public comment, and the next agenda item is commissioner reports. Any commissioner reports?
No, nothing to add.
Not that I can think of, no.
None for myself either. I believe that's all we have, so I would adjourn the meeting at, what's the time? That clock's always off.
7:22.
7:22.
7:22?
Yes.